You've been performing for so long, you forgot who you were before the applause. You don't need a new identity. You need to come home to the one you abandoned. It's time to change the narrative. It's time to recognize who you are. You are not an imposter. You are not a mistake. You are not a placeholder in your own life. Happy Friday, wherever you are. I see you, I honor you, and I stay in gratitude for your time. Today's message is rather quick. I had to get this out to you because I think it can give you another perspective to view the control you have on how you end your week. Before we get into today's message, I want to share something with you that I have been doing for years every Friday to keep me grounded. And honestly, it keeps me present in the moment. Every Friday, I do a gratitude exercise. I don't pull out my to-do list from the week and look at everything that was crossed off. In fact, I don't even think about what I was supposed to do in that particular week. I just take a breath and start thinking about everything that went right. Not everything I planned, not everything I control, just everything that went right. Let me be clear. I have had weeks where, by society's standards, nothing went right. Weeks where the only thing I accomplished was surviving the week itself. But doing this exercise takes me out of that cycle of self-blame and regret because I focus on what has gone right, even if it's small, even if it's quiet, even if it's something only I would notice. It's hard, sure it is. Friends, I have worked in organizations where my work was sabotage, where people deliberately made sure they had a part in making me have a bad week. And guess what? As they were leaving the office on Friday afternoon, they would stop by my door and say, "Have a great weekend." Seriously, how could they even conjure up the words? That's when I knew I needed something to keep me grounded, something that reminded me that my worth wasn't tied to their behavior. So that's where we're going today. We're going to talk about the fact that you are still here, and that terrifies the people who try to break you. Because here's the truth. People who operate from insecurity, scarcity, and fear don't just dislike your presence. They fear your resilience. They fear your ability to stand back up. They fear your refusal to disappear. They fear that every attempt to undermine you didn't work. And nothing is more threatening to someone committed to smallness than a person who refuses to shrink. You being here is not an accident. You being here is not luck. You being here is not a glitch in the system. You being here is evidence. Evidence that their attempts to silence you didn't stick. Evidence that their attempts to confuse you didn't take root. Evidence that their attempts to make you question your value didn't win. And that evidence is loud. It speaks even when you don't. It speaks even when you're tired. It speaks even when you're healing. Your existence, your presence, your continuation, that is the part that terrifies them. Because people who rely on your collapse need you to believe you're fragile. They need you to believe you're unqualified. They need you to believe you're replaceable. They need you to believe you're the problem. And when you don't buy into that narrative, when you show up anyway, when you keep moving anyway, when you keep creating anyway, you disrupt the entire ecosystem they built around your supposed weakness. You being here forces them to confront the truth about themselves, not the lie they tried to tell about you. And let's be honest, sometimes the hardest part isn't surviving what they did. The hardest part is surviving the story you started telling yourself because of what they did. The story that said you weren't enough. The story that said you weren't capable. The story that said you weren't deserving. But here's the thing, you're still here. And that means the story was never true. If it were true, you wouldn't be listening to this right now. You wouldn't be rebuilding. You wouldn't be reclaiming. You wouldn't be rising. You wouldn't be choosing yourself again and again. You being here means you outlasted the lie. You outlasted the sabotage. You outlasted the dismissal. You outlasted the gaslighting. You outlasted the season that was designed to make you doubt your own reflection. And when you outlast something that was meant to break you, you don't just survive, you evolve. You become someone they never expected you to become. Someone stronger, someone clearer, someone more grounded, someone who knows exactly who they are. So today's message is simple. Your presence is powerful. Your continuation is powerful. Your resilience is powerful. And the people who tried to break you know that. They knew it before you did. That's why they tried so hard. That's why they pushed so much. That's why they needed you to question yourself. Because if you ever realized who you were, if you ever realized what you carry, if you ever realized what you were capable of, they knew they wouldn't be able to control the narrative anymore. And I want you to sit with something for a moment. If your presence alone can shake the room, imagine what your purpose will do when you stop apologizing for it. People who tried to break you weren't reacting to your mistakes. They were reacting to your potential. They saw something in you that threatened the version of themselves they were committed to protecting. And instead of rising to meet their own growth, they tried to dim yours. But here you are, still rising, still becoming, still unfolding into the person you were always meant to be. That's not just resilience, that's power. And I know the imposter phenomenon creeps in right here. That quiet voice that whispers, maybe they were right about you. That voice that tries to convince you that your survival was accidental, that your success is temporary, that your seat at the table is conditional. But let me tell you something. Imposters don't survive sabotage. Imposters don't withstand intentional harm. Imposters don't rebuild after being underestimated. Imposters don't keep showing up in spaces designed to make them question their worth. Only someone real, someone rooted, someone called, someone chosen does that. You are not an imposter. You are evidence of endurance. And sometimes endurance looks like showing up even when your confidence is shaky. Sometimes endurance looks like speaking even when your voice trembles. Sometimes endurance looks like taking up space even when your mind is trying to shrink you. You don't have to feel certain to be worthy. You don't have to feel fearless to be qualified. You don't have to feel perfect to be impactful. You just have to keep showing up. Because every time you do, you rewrite the narrative that someone else tried to write for you. Every time you do, you reclaim the parts of yourself that were mishandled. Every time you do, you remind the world and yourself that you are still here. And that's the part that terrifies them the most, not your accomplishments, not your credentials, not your titles. It's your refusal to disappear. It's your refusal to internalize their projections. It's your refusal to let their insecurity become your identity. You being here means you chose yourself again. You being here means you believed in your future more than their doubt. You being here means you trusted your voice even when theirs was louder. And that kind of self-trust, that kind of self-return, that kind of self-possession, that is what makes you unstoppable. You are still here, and that truth alone is enough to shift every room you walk into. So take a breath, settle in, and let's begin the work of separating who you are from who you've been performing to be, because it's time to stop performing and start belonging. Welcome to the work. Welcome to the becoming. Welcome to Unmasking the Imposter. Thank you for listening to the Imposter Phenomenon podcast. If today's episode opened something in you, share it with someone who needs this conversation too. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready to go deeper, get ready to join our community where we're doing the real work of reclaiming identity, rewriting narratives, and rebuilding belonging from the inside out. Remember, you are not an imposter. You are not a mistake. You are the author, and your story is far from finished.